everybody. My name is Angie Morenga. You're watching Just Angie. It's really good to be back in a different format. And today I have an amazing array of guests, and we're going to be talking about personal branding and also building brands. So I'm going to get them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to have a conversation. Karibuni sana. Thank you so much, ladies. You look so amazing, so resplendent, and I can't wait for this conversation that is going to equip and empower people on how to build a brand and what they need to do and the things that they need to look out for. So I'll start from my far right. Njeri, karibu sana. Introduce yourself and also introduce your brand and exactly what you want our audience to know about you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pastor Angie. And hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here, especially talking about branding because that's my area. So my name is Yvonne Njeri. I am a marketing professional. I started out over 20 years ago in advertising. I went into banking, and I've been doing brand building for global companies for the past, I'd say, 15 years. That's Visa, IBM, and recently MasterCard. And then I ventured out into the innovation space about 4 years ago. So at some point I was double hatting, and I've been building my own personal brand as an innovation coach and advisor for the past 5 years. I'm very excited to be here. My two projects that I'm really excited about is one, the startup school that's being run by the Kenya Innovation Agency, where I and two other co-facilitators, we call ourselves faculty. Two faculty members, we actually are helping institutions, that's universities that teach entrepreneurship and innovation, be able to pass on really vital skills to new startups and students who are trying to learn innovation. And I'm also part of the Kenya network of entrepreneurial institutional leaders. And what we're trying to do is commercialize innovations that sit in universities, bring them to the marketplace, and make money while doing that.
Wow,
I'm
that's
very,
really
very
interesting
excited to be
space,
here.
isn't it?
Yes,
Wow,
very
amazing.
exciting. You'd be amazed at how many really awesome research products there are out there, from biotech ones to great health products. Yeah, they really need to hit the country, and we're going to make a difference in Kenya and in Africa. I believe so.
That is
I
so
believe so.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. I'm tempted to start talking, but I better not.
Yeah.
But I'm really grateful for what you're doing. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing space.
Thank you.
And then Hannah, thank you so much for coming. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
So my name is Hannah Githuki. I am a personal branding coach. I work with self-driven individuals, and I help them to build and cultivate brands of influence, impact, and income. And I like to help people to develop brands that are profitable. I am also a trainer, a business trainer on leadership and governance. I head training at Inside Out Development. It's a training and consultancy firm. And what else? I love to facilitate, I love to train, and I love to coach on leadership as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm glad that you're all doing, and the thread I'm seeing is people.
Yes.
There's people involved in all aspects of what you're doing, which is really great. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming. Naomi.
Great. Awesome. Just beautiful hearing
know.
the CVs and what you guys have been able to accomplish. So my name is Naomi Mbugua Mutinda. I am truly a recovering corporate woman venturing into the entrepreneurial space. I have been 18 years in a highly regulated industry, which is the pharmaceutical industry. That's where I've spent most of my corporate life, taking medication to where it needs to be. So it had been meaningful work for 18 years all over sub-Saharan Africa. I took a sabbatical last year just to sort of reevaluate what's next for me based on various issues. And now I am focused on my business. So I had a side hustle for the longest time called Treasured Sense, which is now my full-time hustle. It's a brand that I have built for the last 5-6 years that I'm very passionate about. Very passionate about fragrance, very passionate about what phase 2 looks like in terms of who and how we can build brands, Kenyan brands, in this market. So I'll leave it at that. If that's okay.
Really good. I was thinking as I was preparing for this, one of the things that's very clear and true, even of this continent, is that we have a youth bulge. And they say that this youth bulge, what will help the youth bulge is entrepreneurship. And so when I look around, everybody's trying to build something, trying to build a brand, whether it's they're doing podcasts, whether they're doing music, whether they're doing products, whether it's lifestyle. Everyone is trying to build something, and there's all this deep. So what I wanted to know from you is, what do you think it takes to build a brand, because you're already doing it? And what have you learned about yourself, even as you built this brand, that you can then share with us? Because people need to build brands, but they need to know how to do it.
I'm happy to go first.
Okay.
I think for me, what I've learned about myself building brands is I actually need help, which is interesting.
That's so good.
So I have spent, 20 years building other people's brands and products. And to be honest, I thought I know it all. And then now when I was stepping out and trying to build my own personal brand and building also the brand for my entrepreneurship and innovation coaching, I realized I needed help. Like I needed someone else who can see the back of my head, so to speak. So I reached out. So I have a business coach. I have also a life coach who I'm looking at right now, and I have also just people in the entrepreneurship field who've been holding my hand. I have had conversations with Naomi, for example, just to help me think through, how do I build a business? How do I think about sourcing? How do I not get into debt, which is really, really important, which is one of the gaps I see, especially people coming in from corporate with what we think is lots of money. I say lots of money in quotes because it might not be much, but we can very easily get into debt because we're coming from a space where budgets were plentiful. So we come in with that mindset and we say, I'm going to build a big brand like MasterCard, but I don't have MasterCard resources. So I've had to be very prudent. I've had to be very smart. I've had to partner with people who are better than me at creating personal brands to do that. And the other thing that I have learned, which is quite surprising for me, is because I thought I'm a really bold and resilient person, is actually stepping out takes guts. So many times I would hold myself back, again, possibly because of my corporate background, where the setting tended to have a lot of support. The structure was there. If I decide I'm going to do a podcast, it's easy to hire cameras and get someone to write me a script, even though I'd be the one writing scripts half the time. But I have learned as I'm trying to build my own brand. For example, I'm actually dropping a podcast this Friday. It's called Inflection Point, because I realize that lots of entrepreneurs who actually make it are the ones who have been able to change and roll with the punches and adapt. So I'm telling the stories of adaptation. So trying to launch Inflection Point has actually been quite a journey for me. And I have had to learn how to be resilient, how to step forth, how to silence the voices in my head that are saying, but there's so many other people who are better than you, and they're always going to be voices. So I think just talking to myself and affirming myself and doing it afraid is one of the bigger lessons that I have learned this season.
Amazing. Same question.
Thanks. In terms of learning, really, it's the last one she said. It's being able to do it afraid, stroke anointed. Corporate has a lot of security. There's a lot of buffers. There's a lot, even if something doesn't go well, there's a buffer. But when you're building your own brand, it almost feels like it's do or die. It almost feels like there's no room for failure. If you have a family, you're like, oh my God, I have to do this for my family. I have to do all these things. But that fear can be so crippling that if you don't find a way of overcoming it, if you don't find a way of allowing yourself to be at a place where you acknowledge that you're in the right place at the right time, in the right season, and just take that first step first, then the rest of the things fall into place as you go, so to speak. So just being able to overcome fear, especially in the economic situation. I mean, if you look at what's going on in the country, in the world at large, you being afraid is justified, rightfully so. But if you think about all the people who have been able to do great things or build brands, and I want to help people build sustainable brands. They can be big, they can be global, and if they are, fantastic. But how do you do something that is sustainable, something that you can pass on to your children? That's something that I want to do, and that's a daunting you know, but it also sort of fuels going. So the biggest learning for me is doing it afraid. The second thing would be, what are your strengths? So I'm doing a class called Comini, some coaching thing, and they asked us what our superpowers are. As Africans, we are not, it's not easy for us to say what's good about us. Ask me what my weaknesses are,
and I will tell you.
Yes, I'll give you a whole Bible of that. But ask me what my strengths are, it's very difficult. So naturally, what I did, I sent it to all the people around me, my husband, my friends, all my close friends. And the one thing that they said is, I am pretty intuitive. I didn't know that. But when I reflect, that intuition has played a long way in terms of then how I have I've made a lot of my business decisions. Even now, when I look at my decision to take a sabbatical and all those things and reflect, there's an intuition there that came into play that I feel that was God sent. But what I'm basically trying to say is, what are your strengths and how do you play to your strengths in terms of building the brand that you want to build? Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Because your strength will make
it will power you through.
Yeah, and it's amazing you brought up something that I don't know why as Africans, but we're not taught to bring forth our strengths or continuously think about them. And that's something that we need to do.
We do.
Because your strength is going to come out in terms of the brand.
I keep saying, if you look at, from a movie's perspective, you see young children in the developed markets, in the developing countries, like in kindergarten, very early on, you are exposed to show and tells, where you can go take the most mundane thing that is precious to you, but at a very young age, you have to learn the words to be able to say, what's so fantastic about me and this thing and all those things. So at a very young age, children are taught how to be able to articulate that, which I think for me it was incorporate, and it was by virtue of being forced. That if you're not visible, if you don't step up, if you don't lift your hand, then you don't progress much. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they've said a lot of amazing things, but again, it's a personal journey, so I'm pretty sure there are also a few things I have learned. And the first thing is that you must build a brand. And for me, because I preach about personal branding, because it's my story, I had to build my own brand if I wanted to get to the next level and if I wanted to serve people, which is something I really love to do. So again, number one, you must build a brand. I keep saying that your personal brand is what is going to really cover you when it's time for recession. Is the thing that's going to help you to stay in the game in the long run and to help you to serve, and is going to sustain your career, whatever it is. So building your personal brand is a must, is not a negotiable thing. And then the other thing I've learned in my journey is that there's a lot of people doing the same thing that you are doing. And right now, I mean, universities are churning out, colleges are churning out, high schools are churning out people who are very smart. It never used to be the case, by the way, a few years ago, many years ago, you would find that there used to be a monopoly. There used to be, I even remember, I'm sure maybe Pastor Angie, you can speak into this, but people used to be picked from the university and told, hey, we're going to place you over here, we're going to place you over here. And that's not the case anymore. And so for you to really stand out, then personal branding becomes something that you cannot negotiate on. So then that means that visibility, especially now, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, that visibility has actually become the currency.
It has.
That if they don't see you doing it, then you're really probably not doing it. Whenever I write my LinkedIn post, I finish with PS, photos or it never happened, because again, that has become the thing that if you're not being seen doing what you said you do, then you probably are not doing it. So I've learned that visibility is definitely going to be the currency. And then I've also learned that personal branding or a brand that is not built on service is not going to be sustainable. So whenever I talk about branding and personal branding, I'm always saying it has to be a holistic brand. It has to be a brand of influence, of impact, and of income. Because if you miss one of those, then you either get very frustrated. For example, if you build a brand that makes a lot of money, but you're not serving, then you find yourself not useful. And then you say the world doesn't need me because you're not serving other people. And then if you build a brand that is influential, that's very impactful, you're not making any money. That's why when I was introducing myself, I said profitable brands. You know, if you're not making money with what you're doing, again, you become very frustrated, and even the energy runs out. You don't want to wake up in the morning to do what you love to do because there's no energy. So again, the best definition I've heard of personal branding is that it's about identifying your uniqueness and then exploiting it in the service of other people. That means for personal branding, then there has to be that identifying of something that is unique about you, of something that you do so well, probably better than other people, or probably in a different way than other people. There's that bit of identifying. Then there's also the work of exploiting, because you may want to build a brand, but are you willing to put in the work? I keep saying personal branding is not for lazy people, because it does take a lot of work. So again, about exploiting, maximizing it, and then in the service of other people. That means there has to be service. Otherwise it becomes pointless, and otherwise it's not sustainable. So those are the things I've learned, and more, but I'm just happy to be sharing.
I love that.
I just want to pick on something that Hannah said that I think is really cool, about there being many people who are doing the same thing as you out there, and therefore thinking of how you can be visible and how you can create your own personal brand that stands out. For me, and because I am a believer, I really do hinge myself. My current season favorite verse is Ephesians 2:10, because it tells me that God had already decided for me what I'm going to be and what my space in the world is going to be. So for me, that was such a big mindset shift, because I am very aware of the competition that's out there. I'm aware that there's so many good marketers, many of them better than I am, so many people who are building brands, far better strategies than I do. So that actually for me was a hindrance. It was something that stopped me from doing what I wanted to do, because I kept thinking, but there's so many gazillion, human beings doing podcasts, gazillion doing training, people are talking about startups. But then I remembered, and I felt God saying, I have my own special voice and special way of doing things. Like, for example, I do ideation sessions. And one of the things that has surprised me, I didn't create design thinking methodology at all. And I have found people who have done even more wonderful design thinking sessions. But for some reason, God has given me the ability and the gift to be able to take women who have no business knowledge through an ideation session, and they understand. And I can take students as well, and I can take professionals as well. So I'm just saying this to say that there is a uniqueness, I believe, in me, but a uniqueness in each and every one. So if you're wanting to start something, or you want to do something, don't silence your unique voice, and don't try and copy. Just be you. Show up as yourself and see what God can do with that.
And I love that. And even to pick up on something that you've all said is that, first of all, I love the place of service. Service is so important, so that you understand that you're serving humanity, and that you're serving people, that you're not here. It's about them, it's really, the focus is about them, even as you bring them this brand. And then I love that you said it's not for lazy people, because people sometimes think this is the easy way out. So we're seeing entrepreneurship and building a brand is not the easy way out. And then the faster and the sooner that you start building this brand, the better. But then what I'm getting is you have to be very consistent at the brand that you're building. And maybe that would come back, maybe to you, Hannah. Is it then, do I determine my values so that then I build this brand? And then I'm thinking it's about building it for the long haul. This is not something that's just coming. It's not a passing cloud. This is for the long haul. So what are the things that you think a young person out there, or even they don't have to be young in age, they could be young in wanting to start this. What are the key things that I need to do to brand myself and to understand that this is going to be for the long haul?
And I think for you to build anything strong, then there has to be a very strong foundation. And so for me, it always has to start with the person and the purpose. you know.
So the person and
The
purpose.
person and the purpose, and that is actually the one thing that could be most difficult for a lot of people, because you see, person and purpose then means you have to get into a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
How many people want to get into the journey of self-discovery? Because when you get into the journey of self-discovery, it really unleashes sometimes, or really brings out some things that you probably don't want to bring out, you know, because it's about really asking yourself questions. Who am I? And really, who am I? You know, it's very easy for somebody to say, who are you? And then you go into saying, I'm a coach. But really, who are you? So it's really deeper than just your title. It's deeper than what you do. So it has to start from that place of self-discovery, like really going deep. Who am I? What are my values? Why am I here? And I think she said something about, yes, I have a uniqueness to serve people, but you're also asking yourself which people, because you see, self-discovery means you're also asking yourself which people am I here to serve?
My audience,
Yeah, who's my audience? Because you cannot be serving everybody. You'll get very exhausted. So again, it's starting from that place of asking yourself, what's my one degree? Which again is very difficult, self-discovery, because there's so many degrees you could go. 360 degrees. What's my one degree? What's my design? You know, what drives me? What are my interests? What are my skills learned or the ones that I want to learn? You know, what is my nature? What do people say? Yeah, don't they say your personal brand is what they say when you're not in the room? So you see, self-discovery, you're asking so many questions. You're even getting feedback, and sometimes feedback from probably people you would rather not get feedback from.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
because they will. They might, you know, just tell you things. Probably, I heard somebody saying that sometimes you need a good enemy. You know, a good enemy is somebody who they don't like you, but they are good because they're telling you things they don't like about you that you have to go back and think about
Yeah.
and maybe probably
Yeah.
improve
and
get
probably
into.
improve. You know, so again, self-discovery, you must go there first so that you find your person and you find your purpose. Now, as you do that, you're getting to identify your uniqueness. You're getting to identify what message you're supposed to be serving with. You're getting to identify your target audience, your avatar. I like to call it your avatar. And then once you do you, that's the only way you can go to the other person.
That's so true.
Isn't it? Now you're going to the other person to know what opportunities do you need, where are those opportunities, where are my people, because you can't build a brand by yourself. You can start it off yourself, but you're here. You see, by the way, your gift is not for you.
Gift is for others.
It's for
Definitely.
others.
Even purpose. Purpose
Yes,
is about
it's
others.
about
It's
other
never
people.
about you.
It's not even about ownership. It's about access. People can access you. You've accessed it so that you can serve other people with it. So again, who is this person I'm going to serve? What am I going to tell them? So you have to move from there. And as you go there, you're getting into them. What's your worth? What's your wealth? Right? Because monetization is going to be very important. So you're just building it. You know, as you build your message, then you're getting into exposure, because that's very important. How are they going to know that you do what you say you do? Then you're getting into, you know, results and visioning as well. You know, what do you want to become? What is the ideal? What does God want? You know, from you. So all those kind of things. But the starting point is
Amazing.
person and purpose.
Okay. Naomi, you talked to me about starting like a platform that you want to bring other people into, and that really, you know, segues well into from what Hannah's just talked about, people. And you see, maybe I want to ask you, why do you want to do that? Because many people want to go into business or build a brand for themselves. And we've come into the fact that purpose is about others. Building brands is about others. You're building a brand that even it's for legacy. But it's like you could be doing you. Like you don't have to do this. Even for you. So I'd like the two of you to weigh into that, because many people, they're almost living like a selfish life. But why are you stepping out so that we can encourage more people to step out and to do this?
Great question. And I'll pull the thread from the initial conversation around differentiation, where very early on in starting Treasured Sense, I had to tell myself and to believe it and to make my team believe it, that there's more than enough for everyone.
Good.
More than enough.
For everyone.
I mean, we started the business selling the most mundane thing, which is Bath and Body Works. There's nowhere you'll walk and not find a single place with Bath and Body Works. And it can be very stressful. Even when we started on social media properly, is when you start seeing all these pages now cropping up, selling the exact same thing, probably at a much cheaper price than you. So it can end up being a price war or whatever the case. But I think in the driving the differentiation point, I'll get to your question. It's what is my value proposition?
Yes.
Where are people buying from me?
Yeah.
So I had to sort of stop and ask. People could be buying from anywhere, but they are choosing to buy from us. And the one thing that I realized was the authenticity, where we had put across, like, our terms were very transparent. We'll refund you if you have a problem, all those things. But my point to the differentiation is we all have a calling, we all have something that is unique. From a marketing speak, you have a product, you have a consumer. How well have you understood the consumer and therefore be able to identify the need and be able to position yourself for that particular need? And I think it goes on personal branding as well, which is talking about self-discovery, is understanding you as a product. But I think there's also a critical part in understanding who are the people to consume
this product.
And she said a critical point: you can't sell to everyone.
Yeah.
So you have to decide who is the audience that I want to appeal to. Then beyond that, what does this audience like? Which channels are they on? I could be busy hitting people on Facebook, but they're TikTokers.
Yeah.
So what is my audience? Where are they in terms of that? And therefore, what is their need for you to be able to identify their need? Now, about the e-commerce platform, it almost feels premature because it's very much in ideation stage. I shared with you a story where I got an opportunity to be exposed to a lot of what's going on in the world as far as fragrance and all those things are concerned. And I had gone with the intention of building my own brand, a Treasured Scents brand, which we've tried before and it did well and all that. But I wanted to build something for legacy, something for perpetuity, something for my boys. But when I came back, I realized, I reflected on the time we had the dollar crisis. I did a lot of research in terms of what local brands were available. And I was exposed to such brilliant people who are doing such brilliant things, whether it's candles or homemade soaps or, whipping butters, fantastic products. But for one reason or the other, they're not able to either create the awareness that needs to be created, build a strong brand. They're not able to do that. So the conviction in my heart as I came back is, before I think about building or product development for Treasured Scents, what can I do to uplift all the various local people and the brands that I've interacted? Some have stocked, some have refused to stock either because of branding issues, but there's an opportunity for me to help them with the branding because I understand my client base and what they'd like to see. So it's really coming from a place of conviction for, before I add one more product into a very saturated market. There are people who are already doing it, people who are already gifted, but I can give my gift of marketing or creating awareness for those particular brands. And in that case, building Kenya.
Yeah.
I am also, maybe I don't know whether it's late or not, but that whole thing for why do we consume as much as we do from out of this country?
Yes, very good question.
Why do we do that?
When we have solutions here.
When we have solutions
when they even
here.
take our products here and go make all those beautiful
Absolutely.
and sell them back to us.
Exactly.
Correct.
That's probably what's happening in a lot of the circumstances.
Yeah.
So I'm also at a place for where I have become and I continue to become such a strong believer in Kenyan made products. We've talked with, thinking about going to Kirdi, Kebs, just helping people, also making sure that their standards are international standards.
Yes.
And maybe we should be the ones who are exporting those particular products. So that's where that has come from. More of a strong conviction for there are products out there already, very, very beautiful products, very good products. The skill that I have is in marketing. How do I help them? And because it's e-commerce, we are headed, everything is going to be digital.
That's so true.
Every single thing. That's why for me it has to be an e-commerce platform.
Yeah, and that's really important. I was telling you how when I watch some like adverts, like US adverts, and
Yes.
they
Yeah.
talk about like Alibaba as a platform,
Yes.
and I see how American businesses are saying they're so amazed, they're so
Yes.
grateful that they can sell their
Yes.
products to other markets that they
Correct.
didn't know. Yeah, they didn't have
Correct.
access
Correct.
to those markets,
Yeah.
but now because of that platform,
Yes.
they have access.
Yeah.
So they would have been with their product. Now their product can go to so many places in the world.
Absolutely.
And I was also telling you, I remember Bishop T.D. Jakes when he came to Kenya, he said,
Yeah.
I don't want to carry anything in my
Mm,
suitcase. Yeah,
mm.
just make it available to me. He said,
Yes.
you have amazing products in Kenya.
Absolutely.
Make it available to me. When I get to the
Yes.
US, let me
Yes.
be able to get it
Correct.
there.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's the beauty of an e-commerce
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
And then I always feel that I feel like we're 10% of that social demographic of people who are successful in the nation and have had great opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to see us lift others, because
Yes.
sometimes, as soon as I think, if I get frustrated, I don't even know how other people are coping with all the things that you need to do, even in terms of business and building a brand,
Yeah.
and all the paperwork and all the things that you need to get right and all the information you need to have. But to be able to help, so it must be overwhelming for them. So to help, to get somebody come and say, come, let's do this, let's take this product, let's put it on the market, let's give people choice,
Yes.
and they can choose. And if they choose your
Absolutely.
product,
Yeah.
then we can expose it to the world. So I'm
Yeah.
really grateful for that. I know how you're going to weigh into that, Jerry,
Mm.
and then I'm going to ask each of you. Look, I'm amazed at the corporate setting. Like, I think the corporate was a good experience,
Yes.
but we must build now
Yes.
what is ours, but how do you want to weigh into that one first?
Yeah.
Into that
I think I'll just
thinking.
I was just thinking about it as Naomi was speaking. I think the corporate experience, what it did for us, and maybe for me, was it exposed me to global markets. It exposed me to global consumers. So it helped me understand why people buy, why they don't buy,
Yes,
and to
yes.
some element how branding works
Absolutely.
and how access to new markets works.
Yeah.
So, and I think that is really helpful, because now that I am in my season of impact and significance, I keep laughing. I think it's because of my age. I'm like, now,
yes, we are.
yeah, because now I'm like, it can't be about me.
No.
I'm now looking ahead and saying, okay, when I'm gone, what will I be remembered for? What would I have done? Would I actually have made a difference? And this for me is super important, and it actually does keep me up at night. But one of the things I have felt also is just seeing that we understand, like intuitively, as Africans, we understand our problems. And that's why the solutions we come up with exactly, they work, and then they're sustainable. But then we lean onto the West. One, because they have the money, they're able to fund us. And two, because we think they're successful, so we try and import their success. But then it doesn't work because they don't understand our issues the way we do. So being exposed in the last 3-4 years to all the amazing innovations that are there. There's a guy we met who has been able to figure out, using some chemicals and enzymes and stuff that he's built, how he can actually kill aflatoxin. This is a matter of life and death. He's managed to figure that out, but then he's trying to think, okay, how do I commercialize it? How do I make it go? There's some guys who, I think in Embu, who have been able to figure out how to create fertilizer, bio-fertilizer, organic fertilizer, that makes tomatoes reach the market. Is how, like, they are
Those
just
are
amazing things. How to grow rice without the weeds, how to bring organic chia seeds, for example, to the market. Like, there are super amazing. How to use waste products from tea leaves to create fertilizer. Like, there's a lot of good sustainable products out there that are looking to solve real problems, but we've not been able to actually commercialize them. And then I also wanted to say, innovation has to be intentional. I think the one thing, there's a lot of accidental innovations that happen, and those are good. But for the big problems we have in Africa, we need to be able to feed ourselves. This is 2025. We should not, no one should be sleeping hungry. Absolutely no one. Yeah. So we need to be a bit more intentional, and that's why I'm happy to be part of the work that is intentionally helping students think how to think innovatively. But I think even as parents, we have a role to play. Let's stop pushing our children to get jobs if they don't. If they already have that entrepreneurial bug in them.
Yeah.
They have seen a problem they're trying to solve. Let's encourage them.
Yeah.
The money will come. As Anna
Yeah.
said, the money will be able to make our brands profitable. So let's encourage them. Let's encourage our nieces, our nephews, our friends, the people in the estate, each other. When someone comes and tells you they want to quit their job and start something, instead of saying, oh my God, how are you going to pay the mortgage? Maybe we say, okay, how can we plan over time?
Yeah.
How can we plan over time to be able to do
And
it?
how can we create like a plan that's going to be then
Yes. And
sustainable?
how can we
Even the
support?
plans
Yeah.
can be sustainable.
And how
which
can
is
we
so,
support
so,
each other as
so
well?
amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're getting to the place where this time really goes fast, where I want you to make your parting shots, but with your own expression, whatever it is you want to tell us about brand building, please do. But I'd like to encourage you now to make your parting shots. And it's been a really good conversation. And I think we're not done with the conversation. We may be back because there's so many places that we need to unpack that conversation further. But I've learned a lot myself.
I mean, I think I can go first.
Yeah.
And I think my parting shot will come from what you asked about corporates. I think that will be a very good place to close
Okay.
it. I have worked in corporate. I mean, I started my work as a marketer at MultiChoice Kenya.
Wow.
I know you had
I didn't
asked.
know that. You see?
Yeah, I was in the
Like,
market.
wow. I've always thought,
Yes.
you were this
I
personal branding coach.
know.
That's it.
I know.
That's the part that I know.
Yeah, so MultiChoice Kenya, I was in marketing,
Mm.
and then I was also in investment banking,
Wow.
corporate, and then I also did marketing in training firms before I started my own firm.
Wow.
And before and also banker
Yeah.
for years.
Imagine.
I was a banker,
Okay,
yes, at Diamond Trust Bank.
Amazing.
Yeah. So the thing is, how I want to close this is personal branding. People ask a lot. They always ask me, should I separate my personal brand from my business brand? And sometimes as a coach, I want to peel that onion so that I really get to know what are they talking about. Because when you look at it, there is no separation of your personal brand and your business brand. Who is it that starts a business? It is people called founders and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
What are the core values that they put there for the company when they're starting? It's their own core values. If you were to start a business today, I would say integrity and honesty, because that's my core value. And then the other person is going to say another thing because it's their core value. So again, when you look at it, there is no separation. And the people who really don't separate that are the ones that actually thrive. Those are sustainable brands, because those are the people that remember why they started. Those are the people that remember. I mean, brands are built around three stories: your love story, which is your passion, your backstory, which is your experience and what you've gone through or others have gone through, and then your gap story, which is you're solving a problem. And if you're not solving a problem, of course, there's no money. So again, there's no separation, but you just need to know how to weave them together. And then the other thing is, you must know that even if you're saying I'm building a personal brand, if you don't graduate it into an enterprise, you're still going to become you're going to become an enterprise and a corporate. So even when you start a personal brand, because you're not going to be working yourself, you're going to need team members. You're going to get people to come work with you and work for you. What are you doing? You're also starting an enterprise and a corporate. And that is the goal of everybody, that eventually you grow into okay, maybe not everybody, because there are people who still want to do one-man show and it's still okay. But eventually, your personal brand is going to grow into an enterprise. That is where scaling comes from. That is where the big monies come from. That's where you get all the partnerships. So again, I just wanted to close on that point, that as you build your brand, initial stages you're building, it's you, but eventually you're graduating into an enterprise, and then your impact is bigger, your service is felt more, and you can influence more people. I think that's a good place for me to end.
It's a really good place, and I love that, because I'm thinking of myself. Excellence is something that I value, and it shows up in everything that I do. It's actually a value, or it's a personal value. It's a personal value for my brand, but it shows up in everything that I do.
As it should. Actually, in board members, in board meetings nowadays, there are people, if you're invited to become a board member of a certain company, because I'm coaching in boardrooms, people are asking questions. They're saying, this company that I'm going to be a member of, what is their purpose?
Yeah, what is their purpose?
That
what are their
means
values?
they
What
want
do
to
they stand
know
on?
the owners and the founders and the initiators. What do they believe in? And some people are saying no to a certain organization because of what the owners and the founders believe in or don't. Or
Yeah,
don't. So it's a
yeah.
big part.
Makes
Yeah,
a lot of sense. I love that.
Yeah.
Naomi?
Awesome. I really like that. I'm because of corporate, I had to separate my personal brand with the business brand for obvious reasons. But now that I'm fully in entrepreneurship, I can even see from the content perspective in terms of how people relate to content where I have been in the content, where I've been authentic, where, you know, they're just in the face and they can understand what's going on. So I can relate to that now. How would I like to close? I'd like to reiterate what I said earlier because it helped in many ways. And in the environment that we are getting in, where we are saying there are more and more capable people coming up, you have to know and to believe that there's more than enough for everyone. I can't overemphasize that. That it is not by mistake that God has created us the way that we are. We could have similar, corporate careers or whatever the case, but there's something special about what God is calling for you to do, and therefore it will provide the market for it. If I get into more practical terms, I'd like to again emphasize, you can't run a business if you don't understand, one, the product that you're selling, whether it's yourself or it's the fertilizer or whatever it is. You cannot run a profitable, and profit is critical, business if you don't understand the ins, the outs, the criticisms of your product. You have to understand everything. That's very crucial, because then you know how to either respond, or so you have to plan also how to respond, how to do it in an authentic way. So product, number one, product, whether it's yourself or the actual thing that you're selling. The second thing is pick a consumer. It can be everyone in the value chain. So my pricing is usually just slightly higher, but that's because of the value additions that we have chosen. And those value additions are because we understand the needs of our clients. How well do you understand the various consumer options that you have to present your product in a way that then is profitable? How well do you understand? Do you seek for data? Do they like playing golf? Do they consume TV? Citizen is the biggest station, but your consumers, do they watch Citizen number one? And if they do, maybe they watch it on YouTube, maybe not on pay TV or whatever the case. So I can't overemphasize taking the time to understand your consumer, because then finally you're able to uncover a need that then your product can meet. So it's sometimes I find like it's a chicken and egg situation. In ideal circumstances, you should be able to identify the need, create the product, look for the audience. But those three critical things, if you are someone who's starting a business, or if you're running a business, those are the three things that you want to critically evaluate. How well do you understand your product? How well do you understand the consumer that you want to reach? And therefore identify the need, because you have to sell a need. And if there's no need, sell the need. Thank you.
That's amazing. And identify the best way to reach them.
Absolutely.
I love it. Njeri?
I love it. I think for me, I want to share my parting shot with the young people. And that's because I have met quite a number of them in the work that I've been doing, especially like in the universities and in the startup world. I think for me, it's been quite an eye-opener seeing that the businesses that thrive are anchored very deeply in their founder's personality. So very close to what the both of you are saying. And even though you have an amazing, brilliant, out-of-the-world product or solution, if the person behind it, if the founder is not grounded in their identity, in their values, sooner or later it shows, and it just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And so many businesses I've come to see that have failed have actually just been mostly, I won't say only, but mostly because of the founder. So my parting shot is brands, whether it's your own personal brand or whether it's your product or solution, whatever it is, it's going to grow whether you do anything or not, because you're sending messages out there. So how fast it grows, so the number, the multiplier effect, and how broadly it grows is up to you. So invest in yourself. And I think the younger guys are much better than we were at investing in yourself, in ourselves. Learn, go to YouTube University if you need to.
Absolutely.
University of Google. Learn what you need to learn about marketing if you're not good at marketing, about sales if you're not good at sales. If you need people to help you put your books together, if you need a taxman, someone who's very good in taxes, go get that. Go get what you need so that you can succeed. You can succeed in what you're doing.
Amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
Amazing. I really love that conversation. And I know that we're learning so many things. So many things are going through my mind. I'm thinking about some of the big brands. Every time I go into an Apple store, I first stand at the door and laugh. I'm that person. I'm like, wow, this was a vision, This was a brand. He built it, lost it, got it back, and he's not even here. And the brand continues. When I think closer home, I really want to interview Shikwa Histas. Come on, when I do Shikwa Histas, please, Mwambie, I need to see her because I just love her brand. I find her fascinating that she's selling everything and anything to the people in this nation, and the way that she does it, just amazing. And I love all your brands. I've engaged with your design thinking and ideation. I think the startup school is amazing. SMEs, talking to these young people about how to do it. Treasured Sense. I engaged with your product before I even met you, and that's amazing. I was trying to think, why did I engage that? How did I pick that product? But you definitely, I was your audience, and you got me to communicate with you. Hannah, I've been seeing you doing everything on personal branding, visioning, and just loving the work that you're doing. And I'm so grateful. So I'm so grateful for the conversation, and I'm glad that we're women and we've talked, and I just hope that you've understood some things and you begin to do some things. And I think for me, my greatest takeout is that building brands is for the long haul. It's not something that you're thinking here today, gone tomorrow. We must be intentional about how we're building right from the beginning, because this is going to be a long-term story and it's going to outlive you. God bless you. I hope you enjoyed this. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share your comments with us. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.